Hi everyone, welcome to the third video in this module. This video is going to cover the PowerPoint for today and all of the material in the week 1 folder, as well as some work that we can get started on together. So this is the PowerPoint. You can find it on Blackboard. I'll show you right here in the weekly learning folder. I am going to organize everything in the weekly learning folder from each week of learning. It's in each folder, week 1, week 2, week 3. All you'll be able to see if I enter the student preview is just going to be the week 1 folder. So I'll go over here to weekly learning on the left hand panel, and then you'll be able to see the week 1 folder. That is where today's material will be found. This is the PowerPoint that I'm going to be talking about, and then some of the links to the Lighthouse, which we're going to talk about what that is. It might sound confusing. What's a lighthouse? What are we learning about a lighthouse for? It's going to be right here, and then the to-do list code that we're going to be building. Okay, cool. So you can click that and download it. I already have it downloaded, so we're just going to get right into it. I'm going to skip through a bunch of these first slides because it's talking about the syllabus, which we just talked about in the last video. If you didn't watch that, please get to this section where we talk about the different assignments and tests that are due, and we also talk about plagiarism and late submissions, okay? Cool. So we're going to talk about, also this link is here if you want to have a cool reading on mobile web apps and mockups. There is extra reading right there. Take a look at it. It's awesome. But we're just going to get straight into it today, so you can do that on your own time asynchronously. Okay. So what is a PWA? Have you ever heard of a PWA before? Okay. Think about that for a second. I'm assuming you haven't, because it's a progressive web application and it's kind of a newer thing that's happening right now. Basically what it is a web app, a mobile web app that uses the latest web capabilities, and it provides users with an experience comparable to a native mobile app. So while web technologies are used to build progressive web apps, its functionality mimics that of a native app. So I'll show you some examples later. But basically, we've gotten to the point where our web app technology is so current and so up to date that we can basically mimic those technologies in a native app. Cool. So some examples here that we want to talk about just to make it a little bit easier for you guys. I know my camera's a little bit smaller here, but I want you guys to pull up some of these websites on your phone right now and see what happens when you go to them in a new tab. So I'm just going to do this really quick on my end here. You can pause the video and go through any of these. I'm going to pick the starbucks.ca/menu. And I want you to look what happens. So you can see it's customized and fitting to my screen, but then there's also right here, there should be, if I click, it basically acts like it's an app, but I'm in the browser, right? Like this is like an app. I can click these items. If I want this coffee, I can click it and it brings me to this page where I can add to the order. Just like that. It tells me all about it, and I basically have an app, but I'm on a website right now. Cool. So yeah, I'm going to pause the recording here. If you want to pause the video and try going to some of these on your phone and just play around with them, you're going to see that those are mobile web apps. Okay, sorry, really quick. Welcome back. I just unpaused the recording. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I want to show you this one. I just wanted to find an app that did it. So I'm on the Pinterest.ca app, as you can see right here, and I'm just scrolling through different pins. But we have this little thing, these three ellipses in the top right corner on Google Chrome. If you click that, you get a menu. And if you look, this menu changes depending on if it's a PWA or not. So basically, you'll see one right here that says install app on it. Okay, install app. I can actually install app. So if I click that, okay, it's going to come up with a prompt. Do you want to install? It's not really focusing. Install the app Pinterest. If I hit install, it'll actually just add something to my home screen, but it's different than just adding an icon for a web browser link. It's not actually adding an icon for a web browser link. It's actually downloading Pinterest, and I can put it onto my home page here. Check this out. And there it is, an actual Pinterest icon. And if I click it, if I click it, it actually opens it up like it's a full app. I'm actually in the app, just like that. But I downloaded it through the mobile web app. And this is still a mobile web app, it's just a PWA. And you can get notifications through them, you can get vibrations on your phone. But I didn't have to go to the App Store, I didn't have to do any of that stuff. I didn't have to enable third-party downloads. That is the power of a PWA. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen. All right. So I just want you guys to experiment with some of these and yeah, go ahead with that. Cool. So characteristics of PWAs. What makes something a PWA? So basically, these four things, hint, 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 this might be on a test, are what make a PWA. One, it's installable, so you can install it to your phone, and it could be pinned to the home screen of a device, making it accessible for later use. Two, ability to work offline. So if I turn off my phone onto airplane mode, everything that I just loaded there is cached. So it downloads it to something called a service worker and caches whatever you have in the web app down onto the device. So when there's no connectivity, it should work offline. It's secure, so basically it's exchanged, through SSL, and it makes sure that your connection uses the HTTPS. And then it's supporting native app features such as full screen mode and push notifications. Cool. Some key considerations. To make your app work offline, you need to employ a service worker. Don't worry about what that is. We'll talk about it later. But basically, in simple terms, a service worker registers an offline version for your web app, and then you need a manifest for your PWA, which is essentially just a JSON file that stores a bunch of metadata for your app. So we'll get into some of that stuff later, but don't worry about the details right now. There's a ton of benefits, so if you want to read them, pause the video here, but there's a ton of benefits to using a PWA versus a normal web app, and basically it reduces cost for both the end user. I think Starbucks, they got like 80% more traffic and orders through their PWA than their actual app when they created PWA, and just because it was way more accessible through the website than someone having to download through the App Store. Why develop it? Again, all the benefits, efficient use of bandwidth, increase in efficiency. They take less time to load than the native apps. Why use a native app? Okay, so sometimes there's a benefit for one, sometimes there's a benefit for the other. So it might make sense to use a native app for something that's specifically for that framework for Apple or for Android. If you like working in Android Studio, for example, or you need something on that operating system. And by developing an app only on one operating system, you can ensure optimal performance. So you're creating the best case scenario for that app on Android if you do that. So there are some reasons to just still do native apps, but typically PWAs basically make cross-platform apps really easy, and you can use HTML, CSS, JSON, and React, which is really easy. Cool. How do they work? All you need is the internet, a browser, and your phone. You can use Safari, Mozilla, Firefox, Google Chrome. And basically there's going to be three elements. So you need a web server that handles requests, you need an application server to execute the tasks, and a database to store the information. Excuse me. And then developers will code web apps in two types of languages. So there'll be server side and then client side. So you'll have all your front end code like JavaScript, CSS, and then you'll have your back end code if you use Python or Java. So don't worry about that too much. That's just really high level stuff. We'll just skip over this. Okay, cool. So I want to jump into what is Lighthouse and how can we use it to assess what a PWA is. Basically, it's going to be defined through a spectrum of properties. Like we said, it's installable. It has something called a manifest. It has something called a service worker. It can work offline, right? So those are some of the key features of a PWA. What is Lighthouse? Well, Lighthouse is actually a tool made by Google to assess how progressive a website is. Progressive is just a general term, PWA, progressive web app, because it's using the latest technologies. And we can install Lighthouse in our Chrome plugin to use it as part of developer tools. So I want to show you guys quickly. This is Pinterest. This is a screenshot of Pinterest. And if we go into the developer tools or hit F12 on our keyboard on Windows, it'll open up the bottom here and you can see these tabs going across. Normally you're in the console tab or something like that. If you click Lighthouse tab, you'll see you have the Lighthouse plugin in Google Chrome. And we can also tell that Pinterest is already going to be a PWA because up here, there's that little download icon. It means you can install Pinterest to your machine. Not only do PWAs install to mobile devices, they also can install to a desktop computer or a tablet, which is super cool. All right, so you click the Lighthouse tab and then you're gonna click the generate report button. So that little generate report under the Lighthouse icon, you're gonna click that and it's gonna run an audit on the website. And basically you're gonna get something that looks like this. So here's your scores. There's 26 for performance, so not the best, but accessibility, best practices, and SEO are actually all over 70. So these are the key factors it looks at when it's trying to determine if it's a PWA. So we can see here that it said these checks validate the aspects of a PWA. So it is a PWA. It's installable. It's PWA optimized. So there's a manifest and a service worker. They meet the installability requirements. They redirect HTTP to HTTPS. So remember we said it was secure. It has to work on HTTPS. You can't do it on HTTP. There's a theme color. There's some other content that's been sized correctly for the viewport. So there's a couple other tiny little ones that also go with it. But you can see that you don't necessarily need all of them to pass as a PWA. It's best if you have all of them, but you don't necessarily need all of them. Cool. So let's try to build a simple PWA. We're going to do this in Notepad++, or if you wanted to use Sublime Text, whatever your favorite text editor is. If you want to use Visual Studio Code, then we can do that too. This is going to be in a separate video. I want you guys to try using Lighthouse. So I'm going to do a little quick demo right now in Google Chrome. If we go to pinterest.ca, and then we hit F12 to open up our developer tools. Okay, and now mine just goes to a mobile view because I've turned on my Moto G4 here. I can just go to responsive right there and then just make it bigger. So basically I'm already on the Lighthouse tab down here. You can see this is what you normally would see, elements or console, something like that. Come over to Lighthouse and then click generate report. And it's gonna run an audit here and that'll take a little minute. So we're just gonna wait for that to go. It should be pretty quick. So I want you to try to find this on another website, not Pinterest. Try it on YouTube or Instagram or one of those other more popular companies. Try Tesla or something like that to see if they have if they have what it takes to pass a PWA test. So yeah, that's going to be one thing that I'm looking for. You can upload a screenshot of that to the week 1 of whatever website you did your PWA test on. Someone did Instagram last time. It was actually kind of interesting what they found. So you can try it on Instagram, 2048.com, the game. You can try it on that one or some of those ones that we had in the list before. Cool. So it takes a little minute here. I might just pause it while we're doing this. Okay, so we're back. That took a little while. Sorry about that. But basically, it said the page loaded too slowly to finish within the time limit. Results may be incomplete. So just run it on your own time. But we can see it did pass. It's installable. It's optimized. And there's still a couple that are missing. But go try it on another website. There'll be a spot for you to upload a screenshot of the website you ran it on. That'll be the in-class lab for today. And then also writing our own PWA, our very own first PWA in simple HTML. We're going to do that right after this in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.